Alright, welcome to Airsoft Report's review of the new Echo 1 M4A1 carbine. Now today we're going to go through the ins and outs of what we like and what we don't like, and take a look at our firing report where we test the accuracy, rate of fire, and velocity of this AEG. Now, first things first. It comes in at about 32 inches with the stock fully collapsed. That means that it's a reasonably compact design and it's actually very well balanced. You can see that it really doesn't tip forward or back too much when you hold it right in the middle of the carrying handle. That we like because it's easy to maneuver either inside a building or out in the woods, either way. Now, just a couple of things. First, all the metal parts on this gun. You have the magazine, the fire selector switch, the trigger, this dress-up item here, which we're not quite sure what it does, the carrying handle and sight assembly, the locking collar, and the barrel. Also, we have the charging handle and dust cover as well. Now, there are a couple of little gadgets on this gun. We're going to show you how they work. Firstly, the stock. It's a 3-position stock, the first being fully collapsed, the second being in the middle setting, and then the third being fully open. We find that fully open is the most comfortable for us, but of course it could vary depending on the size of the player. Also, the dust cover. Now, the dust cover houses the hop-up adjustment, and it's accessed by pulling back on the charging handle and then exposing the dust cover. And with that back, you can see the hop-up adjustment in there. And although it's good that it can't get adjusted, accidentally in the heat of battle, for example, it's also a bit of a pain to adjust when you're trying to sight something in, because the wheel, at least in our tester, is very stiff and doesn't really want to move at all. Close back up the dust cover, and then take a look at the sight assembly and carrying handle. Now, it has two different aperture settings. You have the first one, which is a small aperture, and that's for distance shooting. And then you have the larger one. You simply flip it down, and you're in business. Then that's used usually for more close quarters combat, gives you a better sight picture for up close and personal. As far as removing the sight assembly, it's very easily done. You just put the gun on its side, unscrew the knobs, pop it off. Once that's done, you've got yourself a great RIS rail, perfect for mounting any kind of accessory you want, sight, scope, whatever you feel like doing. Putting it back on is pretty easy. You see it just locks it on the one side. You just shoehorn it on there and then crank it down. And you're all set, ready to go. One thing we don't like about this gun is the foregrip. The foregrip houses the battery, which by the way is an 1100 milliamp 1.2 volt battery. The plastic itself doesn't feel all that strong, though we haven't done it yet. We're worried that if we drop it on maybe a rock or concrete or something that it could crack. That's something that could be replaced though if necessary. You can always get aftermarket foregrips. Now, to take the battery out, you pull back on the locking collar. You may have noticed too, when I just dropped the gun, it actually pulled back a little bit, and you can see right there, this is the reason we don't like it, the foregrip starts to come apart right there. It doesn't take much to pull that locking collar off. And once you do that, the whole foregrip comes apart. Comes apart in two pieces, as you can see. And that exposes your battery, standard sort of connection. And you notice too, the fuse is lashed to the barrel. Nothing fancy here. Putting it back on, not so easy. So bear with me here. I'm going to try to show exactly what I usually do. The top portion first. That seems to be the best way of doing it. Once you've got the top portion in, then you just kind of push in the wiring and then kind of just shoehorn that little battery in there, set up. Except, we're going to try it from a different angle here. Just turn it over. Okay, it's not the easiest thing in the world to get in, and one thing we found out too is that The top part of the foregrip and the bottom part of the foregrip are a little different. The bottom part has more space, in the plastic shell itself, whereas the top one has some ribs up top. So if you find that the battery is just not going on, take a look at that. You might have them reversed. We also like the fire selector switch. Anyone who's used an HK model airsoft gun knows that the fire selector switch can be a little bit sloppy. Sometimes it can result in, sticking, which can result in fully auto fire without ever touching the trigger. In this case, though, they do a good job of keeping it user-friendly and pretty much foolproof. You have your auto setting, which is obviously all the way with the knob to the left, and then you have your semi, which we rarely use, but of course then the knob is all the way down. It clicks in very nicely, and of course you're safe. And there's almost no way to bump this accidentally and either take it off safe or put it back on safe. We really like that. The magazine release is pretty straightforward. You have a push button on the right side of the frame. You just push down, easy to do with one finger, pops right out, no problem at all. You usually, of course, have about 4 BBs or so that fall out, so if you're conserving ammo, just tip it upside down and then drop them in your hand. The magazine, of course, is pretty straightforward. It's a 300 round, high capacity magazine. Does require a fair amount of winding, nothing too bad though. We found with this one, you wind it maybe 20-25 times or so, and you're probably going to be good for most of the clip, maybe with a little winding at the last 50 rounds or so. All in all, it's a good looking gun. We do have, like I say, some minor complaints. The foregrip is probably the weakest spot in terms of the design. Of course, you could just get yourself some electrical tape while you're playing a game, just so it doesn't fall out. That would take care of the problem, and it wouldn't look too bad. The sights, some people like them, some people don't. You've got a little 3-point sight right here. It's different. It's not like all the HKs or even some others. It's unique, but we found that it's actually pretty accurate once you get used to it. The aperture settings also very convenient, easy to use. We like that a lot. There's a little bit of slop. For some reason, Echo One has a sight assembly that it wobbles. There's a little spring. It's hard to see. It's a little silver piece right in between the handle and the rear part of the sight assembly, and that causes the whole thing to kind of wobble a little bit, which can throw off your accuracy a little bit. If you just screw the elevation knob all the way down, going counterclockwise, it locks it down, and it's not going to move. It's not going to move as much, but that's just a minor issue. All in all, good gun. 155 bucks. We spent on it at Shorty USA. We know for a fact you can find them cheaper, but Shorty has a pretty decent operation, good shipping, good communication. So just shop around, take a look at airsoftreports.com. We've got retailer reviews. You can click on those reviews and link to the retailers themselves, do some price checking for yourself. But go ahead and get it. Velocity's good. It's a very, very maneuverable little piece of hardware. We like it.